Right, try and connect. We've been talking about it. We've mentioned it. You've heard it. You've gotten at least 5 emails about it. You're very excited about try and connect, right? We're super excited. I'm excited. We all should be very excited. Okay, so what can try and connect do for you? You can promote events on there. You can email your members on there. I'm going to go through these more in depth, but this is just the overview slide. So don't scribble everything down. You'll have time. You can request funding on there. You can keep track of files on there. You can create forms and surveys, and you can track attendance. So when it comes to promoting events, let me close the chat so I don't get distracted by it. If you've been on Try and Connect, you probably saw at the bottom of the homepage, there's this really cool upcoming event slider that just kind of shows what's happening this day and what's happening in a few days from now. But you can also click all events there, or there's like this events tab at the top of the page on Try and Connect, which will take you to the full list of upcoming events. On the upcoming events list, you're able to click all these little drop down buttons and sort by however you want to sort and figure out where the event is, what type of event it is, when it's occurring, all of those things you can sort the list by and kind of have fun figuring that out. Obviously right here I clicked free food because who doesn't want to attend an event with free food? And it's a shameless plug for our big upcoming student involvement events. So we hope to see you at the Welcome Back Bash as we welcome our new students on Saturday, August 20th, next Saturday. So anyways, that's how you can promote events on there. All of your events, once they're approved by me. Just as a note, if you guys submit an event, it does go through a little approval process. So it doesn't pop up immediately on the events calendar. So if you're submitting an event and you're like, what the heck, I've done it 5 times. It's because it's sitting waiting for me to approve it. And I approve events every Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning. So if you submit it on Monday afternoon and you don't see it on Tuesday, that's because I'm going to check it on Wednesday morning. So just as a little hack for you all, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings are when events get approved. So if you need your event to be up ASAP, make sure it's done by 9 a.m. on one of those mornings. All right, emailing members. So it's been mentioned a few times in the chat, which I'm so excited that some of you have already figured this out. But if you go to your student organization, so up here on the top, you see this groups tab. You'll click here and any student organization you're an officer of should pop up underneath that and say my groups, and you can click into it. If it doesn't for some reason, you can always just search and find it. But it will take you to your dashboard. So in my Engage, we always had to click manage organization. It popped up to that weird page that had no information on it. Try Connect takes you straight to the information you need. It takes you straight to the place where all the buttons are. So there's this orangish red, whatever color you call that thing that says emails. If you click on that, it will walk you through some steps. It will ask you who you want to send the email to, things like that. And then it has an option to just send a plain email, or you can do an email builder, which I think is really fun. Your Try and Connect emails you've been getting from me. I've been using this email builder and having a lot of fun creating them because when you click that, it gives you all these options of different templates you can choose from. There's a lot more than this. This is just the ones I screenshotted. And so then when it goes into the email builder, where these pictures are showing up, you could just click there, upload an image from your computer, add some alternative text onto it. Then you can get to typing. You can edit what the font looks like, the color of the font, all of those types of things. It makes it super easy. And then from there, you could preview the email, you can send a test to yourself, and then you can just send it and it will send it to the members that you selected in your list. And when you're selecting your members, you can do members, you can do staff, students, faculty that are in your group. You could do just officers. You can pick from a multitude of options, but it's all pretty straightforward when you go into the email builder. You'll kind of see, and it walks you through step by step. The one thing I will say is when you open the email builder, if you're like, where do I go from here? On the bottom of the screen, there should be a black pane, and on the right-hand side, there's a button that says next. If you're not paying too close of attention, it's easy to miss. So if you're in like a hurry trying to send an email, you're like, Michaela said this was so easy. It walks me through every step. It does. You just have to notice that the next button is on the bottom of the screen, which I missed it a few times. So I'm definitely guilty of that. All right. Requesting funding. This looks a little crazy with all the arrows, but we're going to go deeper into requesting funding after I give you this little Try and Connect overview. Back on your dashboard, you're going to click accounting book, or you can click budget. It essentially takes you to semi the same place. And then it gives you this list of your accounting book, and it has all the different budgets that are available or have existed. And you can click on them if there was requests submitted during that time, or you have allocations during that budget. You can click on the link right here. It has like a little blue, obviously it's a little blue button. Then it will open it to this that has like kind of the timeline of when everything is due and how that process will go. It also shows you the totals of how much you've said you needed, how much you've requested, and how much has been approved or allocated. Then it also tells you what you've submitted payment requests for and which payments have been approved. So just a quick nitty gritty. I promise we'll get into the details of the budget requests in a little bit, but it's always under your organization's dashboard and then accounting book, and then you'll choose from these options here. If you click on budget, it will just take you to this page, and then you'll click from this drop down, whichever budget review session you're trying to either view or submit under. Keeping track of files, similarly to everything else, there's a files button on your dashboard. Then we go there, it opens all of this, so it shows you anything that's been uploaded, any documents you've uploaded, all of those. It has the folders that it pre-makes, or it just has, like, for instance, you'll see down here, student involvement, we had 65 files. Most of that is just pictures from our events that we've uploaded and added event photos or flyers for. But if, for say, you want to make sure that the student organization constitution and bylaws are easy to locate, you can go right here, you can click upload, and then you probably would want to upload it to the documents folder, and you can put Office of Student Involvement Constitution. We don't have constitution because we're not a student organization, but you get what I'm saying, right? Okay. Creating forms and surveys. Similarly, on the dashboard, you have a surveys and forms button. Once you click that, it gives you these 6 options of what to create. You can create a form, you can create a survey. There's poll options, which allows you to ask one question. And if I remember correctly, when anyone that's a member of your organization then logs in, like, it will notify them that there's a poll in their email. But when they log in, it probably will also pop up the poll. So then it's like, whatever, if you want to know, like, do you prefer to have hamburgers or hot dogs at our next event? You can just ask a poll, and then everyone in your organization could answer the question. Election, so you could host an election on there. I haven't explored this feature a lot at all, but if, for instance, you wanted to do your student organization officer election on Triton Connect, definitely we can figure it out. I can hop on a meeting with you and we can look through how it works, and I can ask our customer service associate from the company as well to help us out with that. You can create a quiz. So the Triton Connect, or the Soul Makeup, will be a quiz on Triton Connect. You also can create job applications. You all probably will not have jobs because you don't hire people to work in your student organization, sadly. But so you probably won't ever use that job application feature. But if you do work on campus in an office that hires student workers, and your office that you work in is interested in having a portal on Triton Connect, they could post their job openings that they have for students on Triton Connect. And so when you open the survey or form, it opens a survey and form builder, which kind of looks a little blank, but you just click this purple button and it pops up all of the different question options you have. And there's a ton of different options. And the best way I would say to kind of figure that out is just really take some time and sit down and, like, click. When you hover over the question type, it will tell you what it is. Or you can obviously just, like, click it and try and figure out and test it out to see if that is exactly the kind of question you wanted to ask, or if you wanted to switch it up a little bit. You can just choose from the other options that they have in there. But definitely a good resource if you all have something that you need to get information from your students, or you want to know kind of what everyone's opinion is, or if you want to do an election, things like that. All right, and then tracking attendance. So you'll see if you've created an event in Triton Connect, when you go to the event and you're managing it, you'll see at this top, it says how to track attendance with a laptop, how to track attendance with a mobile device, how to activate self-check-in. If you click on that, it will take you to an article or a video on the Campus Group's website, which is the company that owns Triton Connect. And it will actually just give you step-by-step instructions of how to do that. And I know in the past, obviously, we've checked you into multitudes of student involvement events. And so you know kind of what check-in looks like. But I think the benefit of it for your student organizations, for one, that data can be very helpful for you when you're submitting student leadership award nominations, because instead of saying, like, we hosted 3 events this year, you can say we hosted 3 events that had 250 people total in attendance. And that looks really good on your nomination form, right? And another thing for you as student leaders, in your resume, you can say managed a student organization that hosted 6 events annually with an average attendance number of this many people at those 6 events or at each of our events, things like that. But those numbers that we want to put in our resume or we want to put in our award nominations, we have it in the past tracked very well. So then as the student president or the student treasurer, you're trying to figure it out and you're like, I mean, I think there was like 20 people there. Maybe there was only 5 at that other event we did. I'm not very sure. If you check people, if you start the practice of checking people into your events and tracking attendance at your events, that will make all of that super easy. And it honestly just provides a way for you all to brag about how amazing your student groups are, because you have all of these things that are going on and you have all these people attending your events. And there also is an option you'll see when people RSVP for your event, you can email the attendees. So if maybe you're hosting an event that requires a waiver form, you could email all the attendees the link to the waiver form and they could just fill it out right there. So yeah, Mindy.
Hi, Michaela. Really quick before we get too far in the weeds, I have a few questions that I've been kind of hovering on.
No,
Chris actually answered one in the chat. So thanks, Chris. That's Michaela's new student program manager. But just to confirm, a few people were asking about, they used to have a lot of members in their portal in MyEngage, but now in Triton Connect, they don't have as many. Is there a way to still go back into MyEngage, or is that access done with?
So I have everyone that renewed their organization in the spring sent in a roster of students. So if you are hoping to upload your roster of students that you submitted during renewal, if you put in your question box in the afternoon session that you need your roster, I can go ahead and email you that roster. Our plan was that we were going to upload them all. But that just became like a huge headache. And some people sent me their roster that had like all 450 people that were in their MyEngage portal. And I'm fairly certain that none of our student organizations currently have 450 active student members. And so we just wanted to kind of go in there and clean it up. So when you're sending an email to people, you're actually sending it to people that are wanting to get the information, and your events are getting promoted to the right people. So if you're looking for that, I can send you the roster I was given in the spring. You also can, on the members page on your dashboard, you can click add members on the top right, just how on every other page there's like add something in a colorful box. If you click, you can click add members, and it lets you search by name. So instead of MyEngage was clunky and really hard to add members, Triton Connect is very easy. So if you have your roster in front of you, you could easily sit there and type, even if it's 20 people, I promise it will not take that long. And you can choose or choose not to notify them that they've been added to your portal. So let me know in the afternoon question box if you need your roster. If so, I will send it to you in the coming weeks. Otherwise, you can go ahead and do those on your own that way.
Great. Another question, kind of probably similar, was about like the Constitution and bylaws. Were those loaded from what they submitted to you, or how did that work out?
I have same thing with the rosters. I have them from renewal. I have them in a folder in Google Drive. If you do not have access to those documents from your past leadership, let me know. I can send those to you.
Awesome. And then there was a few Mazevo things, but I'm going to wait until you're.
Yeah, we're getting to Mazevo in a little bit.
So many helpful students in the chat already, like, answering questions. Yes.
Love you all. All right. Okay, well, now we're on the event planning. This is where you definitely probably want to take notes, because when I made this part of the presentation, I sat down and I said, okay, Michaela, if you are student organization president at UMSL, what steps would you walk through and in what order to make your event as successful as possible and to follow all of the steps and processes that student involvement requires of our students? So I promise this is thought through. For those of you that have worked with me in the past, you know that lists are like my favorite thing, and organized and order lists are the thing that keep me thriving. So I promise this list is very thought through and in order. So if your brain doesn't work like that, that's totally fine. Just take notes. But if it does, I'm with you. And that's the way this presentation was created. So a step-by-step guide to planning events at UMSL. Sorry, my calendar went off. Okay. So first and foremost, you got to pick a date and a time for your event, right? So when you're thinking of the time, you're going to want to think through what time will people come to an event, which you'll notice a lot of our student involvement events, they'll either happen at similar times in the day, or depending, like for you, instance, UPB, they try and spread their events out all throughout the day because they have so many events that they can do that, similar to my Wise Up Wednesday schedule. And so thinking through for your student organization, the people you're trying to get to attend, what time of day would work best for them. So say you are a nursing student in a student organization connected to the nursing program, and you know that all day Wednesday, everyone has class from 8 to 6 p.m. every single day, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day. You're obviously not going to plan an event for your student organization on a Wednesday, right? Because even if everyone gets out of class at 6 p.m., they don't want to stop at your table and talk. They don't want to go to an event. They probably just want to go home and go to bed, do their homework that they have remaining, things like that, right? So really thinking through those details, which kind of leads into the day and the date. So which day of the week will people come? In that example, Wednesday is not your day that people are going to come. Maybe a Thursday, they're on campus studying in the morning because you guys don't have Thursday morning classes. So maybe we table in our building on Thursday, and we can kind of get a captive audience of students who are doing their own thing on their own time, but are still interested in probably what we're trying to get them to be interested in. And then what date gives your organization enough time to prepare? As a rule, we say that you probably need at minimum 3 to 4 weeks to plan an event. If you're going to throw together a tabling thing like, oh crap, we need to invite people or tell people we have this thing coming up, as long as you can reserve it in Mazevo, which I think you have to do 10 business days in advance of your event. So that gives you 2 weeks. If you can throw together people to be at your table and things to be on your table in 2 weeks, go right ahead. But if you're going to have more of a complex event that has all these other 6 steps that are coming after this, I would definitely say like 3 to 4 weeks is minimum. 6 to 8 is better, but 3 to 4, you can make it work. And then lastly, who can be there? Which of your members can be at the event? We've probably all in this call planned an event and then been like, oh crap, there's 3 people on our officer board and all 3 of us have class or we have work. So who can we rely on to be there? And we know maybe our general members aren't always the people that are going to show up. It's really just the president and treasurer. We've got things down. We're holding it together. But now we both have class and work. And how are we going to make sure that someone's there to make the event run correctly? So thinking through when you're planning at the very beginning stages, like who will be the person that can be there? Who's the point person that's responsible for answering questions, for being at the event, and making sure everything's running smoothly. Okay, next, Mazevo. Reserving your event location is very important. You don't want to get past the planning stage of daytime and who is going to be there without confirming that you actually can have the event where you want to have it. So this is the link to go to Mazevo. If you also search event services on the UMSL website, it will take you to their website that has the direct link to that. So if you don't want to type in this long URL in the green at the top, that's the other way to get there. Also, all of these websites I show you, including Try and Connect, just bookmark them. Just have a little folder that says UMSL links or something. That way it's easier for you. You're not searching in the middle at 2 in the morning. You're not like Mazevo UMSL and you can't find it. Then you're like, Michaela, I'm trying to reserve my room. SOS, I don't know the website. If you just have it bookmarked on your computer, it will save your life because it's just one click away for you. So when you open Mazevo, you probably don't have this approvals tab, or you shouldn't. I just have that being an advisor. This little add new request button is going to be the only thing you really need on Mazevo. Add new request. You might need my events if you need to go back in and look at something at some point, but add new request is your friend. And then I know Mazevo, if you've made a reservation, it asks a lot of questions. So I just wanted to kind of go over the basic, like what it asks. So first, event information, that's just the title of your event. These all are like drop downs, like there's more like to it, but this is just the condensed what it looks like on Mazevo. They ask you the event information, so just what the name of your event is and what student organization you're hosting it for. When your event is, you'll pick the day and time. Then it will have you pick a meeting room, and any space that when you start typing into that box, any space that pops up, like any building, is a building that Event Services uses and you can reserve on Mazevo. Say you want to reserve a space that doesn't pop up on there, then you're going to want to send an email to this MSC Ops email and be like, hey, who should I contact about reserving this space outside of this building? And they'll be able to respond with who the contact is and where you would find that information. But any room you can reserve on Mazevo will pop up in the building drop down when you start to type. Like even when you click in the box, it pops down all the buildings. And then it asks you if you need services. So that would be like if you need a microphone, if you need a thing that a speaker stands at that I can't think of what it's called right now. If you're in the sensory rooms and you need this projector and you need the projector screens to be down, All those kind of things are going to be when you click that you need an MSC services and equipment or event services and equipment, all of those little check boxes will pop down. I will let you know all of those things that you check mark on this part, service providers, all of those things will add a cost to your reservation. If you add a cost to your reservation, that's fine. You'll just need SABC funding or some sort of other funding to cover that cost. But just like know that if you click on this, you're like, oh, that'd be fun to have a microphone. And oh yeah, we could use a projector and we could do that. You're just adding to the bill, just so you know. If that's a helpful thing for your event and you think that it's necessary, totally by all means reserve it and request money if you need it. But just be aware that that is what those check boxes mean. It means that you're adding things to your bill.
Michaela, it's looking like that URL may not be
It's not working.
the correct one.
Dang it. I literally copied
That's okay.
it.
I'm gonna put in
Mindy will figure
Chris
this
put in one too. Okay, perfect. I think this one will
Nice.
also take you right to it.
Perfect.
Sorry, y'all. Mazevo is also a new system for us on the event services side. So this past summer, we've been like, what's happening? And if you didn't notice in the chat, I also mentioned the OSI is going to work on creating like a planning an event kind of home, like a landing page. And that might be in Triton Connect or maybe on our website with a button Triton Connect that will kind of have the frequently used websites, maybe some tips. Because I think this is maybe where us as a staff and student organizations maybe struggle with is that there's a lot of information. And like I said, Michaela and I work here and there's still days where I'm like, who do I talk to for this? And that's not very like customer service friendly. So we understand that and we will try to make this as seamless as possible. But thanks for giving us some grace.
Yes, and thank you for pointing out that that link wasn't working. Thank you. All right, so that was another stressful looking screen. So now that we reserved our event location, we need to put the event in Triton Connect so we can tell the world we're having an event on this day. Don't plan your event at the same time because we want all students to be able to go to all events on campus, right? So in Triton Connect, on your dashboard, this is the little button you'll click, events. A lot of you have already been submitting events, which is so exciting. You'll click events. It will pop up a page similar to the one you saw earlier when we were on all the other screens that are on the back end. And there's a green button on the top right that says create event. When you create an event, it will ask you general information. You see all these little dots down here. This is kind of your timeline of the form that you're filling out to create your event. So it's going to ask you what your event is. So your name, description, your event type, your event tags. And these event tags are kind of, it's one of those options on the event list that I showed you earlier, all those little drop downs that you can filter events by. Event tags is one of those things. So one of the event tags is free food. One of the event tags is free stuff. One of the event tags is commuter cash. So if your event has been approved to be on or is qualifies to be on the commuter cash list, you can pick that commuter cash tag, and then students that are interested in getting a bunch of commuter cash to buy all of the fun things at our commuter cash auction at the end of the semester can click the tag commuter cash and they'll attend your event. If you don't know what commuter cash is, stay tuned. I promise that you will hear about it this semester. And just know that the more events you attend that are qualified by commuter cash, the more commuter cash points you get and the more fun stuff you can buy at the end of the year. Okay.
Michaela, really quick.
Yeah.
Can anyone in the organization portal make an event or do they have to be an admin or an officer?
It should just be anyone who's an officer.
Okay, any officer. Avery, that question was for you.
Yes, I also saw that question. I have to close my chat. I'm too distractible.
I got the chat, Michaela. Well, Chris and I have the chat.
I know Chris is carrying his weight over here. All right, and then your event coordinator. So you'll see, kind of to go off Avery's question, when you click this drop down, it's just going to show you people that are officers in your organization. So say maybe you guys have a secretary in your organization, and they're going to be the person responsible for creating events in Triton Connect, but maybe the president of the organization is the person in charge of the event, and they're the person that needs to be asked the questions. Your secretary can go in and click in this drop down list and choose whoever is responsible for creating that event or whoever is responsible for that event, because you'll see down here, how do you want your attendees to contact you? There's an option to either send an email to the event coordinator or start a group chat with the organizing team. And you'll want these messages, whichever one you choose, to be getting sent to the correct individual. So you'll want to make sure that's on there. If you are going to be checking people into an event and you need like the whole entire exec board of your organization to be able to check them into the event, you'll just want to click this add team members button here and add them in there. So then when they're on the Triton Connect app on their phone and you're at the event and you want to check people in, they can have access to check people into that event as well. And then I didn't want to go through every single little question because most of these are pretty straightforward. On the photo section, you'll notice if you've created an event, there's 2 options for a photo upload. If you hover over both of those options, it gives you more details about what that means and which one will show up where. So just make sure if you're interested in having both of those options or one of those options, just hover over both photo options and it will tell you that. And then basically, yes, all of these different things on here. Once you get to more and like advanced, those are going to be like a bunch of random questions that you may or may not need to use or want to use. So a lot of this, once you get past photo and then like access and display, most of this is just kind of straightforward, answering questions yes or no. Once you submit your event, you click save event on the very bottom. There's also an option to save a draft of an event. So maybe you want to create an event, you want to remember that you guys want to have an event on this day, but you haven't finalized your reservation of where the event's going to be. Underneath where your event is at, you can put TBD, but also there's a save draft button at the bottom of the event creation screen. So you can always save the draft. Once you submit the event, it will pop up with this screen. It shows you the event details. I just made a test, so there's not a lot of details here, but the more stuff you fill in over here, the more you'll have right here. It's going to ask you just a few questions. Was it funded by SABC? Yes or no? If you haven't requested funding at this point in my event planning 101 step-by-step guide, if you're planning on requesting funding for the event, you can still put yes here because that means it will be funded by SABC for the more than likely. You'll click yes here. And then if you're bringing a speaker or performer to this event, you'll want to click yes or no here. We'll get into speakers and performers in the next slide. So if you click yes to this, it's going to actually redirect you. Before I get into speakers on campus, Mindy, was there any other questions about events?
I don't think so. I think we are answering them all. There's a question about the Triton Connect app, which is in the App Store for wherever your App Store is. We're like so legit. Michaela worked a very long time to get that in there, but we're in there.
If it's glitching and rerouting you to S&T, we're already aware of that problem and we're figuring it out.
Yeah, just a little background. Triton Connect is the UMSL branded app of a larger company that all of the UM systems use. So actually in my example, when I log in, it takes me to the minors, which is Missouri S&T login, and says I'm like not a current student. Well, no shit, I'm here at UMSL, but because we log in with the UM system, that we've had a few issues with that happening. Luckily, it's only been a few select special folks, but Michaela is working on that. So, but we are in the App Store. The slides and the recordings will be available after this. And Michaela's going to talk about art requests and things in a moment. So I think that's covered what's been in there so far. But good questions.
Perfect. All right. So if you're bringing a speaker to campus, this can be a 6 to 8 week process. It will take 6 to 8 weeks. Those of you that have brought a speaker know there's a lot of details. There's a lot of questions. We're waiting on emails back and forth. We're waiting on the business department. There's a whole lot of things. But so when you click yes, we're bringing a speaker here on the little form that pops up when you submit an event, it will take you to this student group event registration form, which is a little blurry because it's not this big on a screen on your computer. Then oh my goodness, my words, the caffeine's kicking in. Once you get to this screen, it will then take you through a form, which we're going step by step through this PowerPoint slide that's next. So I know there's a lot of boxes of information, but just stick with me. So first, it's going to ask you the information you need to know before you fill out this speaker information form is in this box. So you're going to need to know the first and last name of the speaker, their email address, their phone number, their mailing address, how much you're paying them to be there. Obviously, we haven't done a budget request yet. So all of this is pending budget request, but that cost of appearance can be edited in the contract after it's created. Before, we just have to have them re-sign it. So I know it seems scary because they asked for $300, but we don't even know if we have $300 to pay them yet. But I promise it will be okay because our office manages all of these different processes, so we can make changes if there's changes that need to be made. You'll need to know their tax status, which goes along with this bottom question, which says if they're self-represented or agency represented, which would mean like they have an agent. So like you hear famous people like, oh, talk to my agent. Somebody you bring to campus might be underneath an agency who would then deal with this kind of tax stuff for them. You need to know if they're a US citizen or not. And then you also will attach their W-9 form. That is an optional question on the form. So if you haven't got the W-9 form back from them yet, when my office emails them their contract to sign, we will just request that W-9 for them. But it's easier if we have it from the jump. So try and get that from them. And then we also really need to know if they require travel accommodations, because you'll need to know because that adds to your cost. But we also need to know so we can get that figured out for them. Yes, Mindy.
A few questions that are kind of pertinent right away.
Yeah.
What happens if you're not paying the speaker? Do you still need to go through this process?
Yes, and the cost of appearance will just be $0.
Okay, and then what if no university funds are paying for this speaker? Bob, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I need to clarify the answer to that question.
Bob, I'll get back to you.
Was that the only 2 questions?
A new one is, what if the speaker is a professor or faculty on campus?
Still have to fill out the appearance agreement. And so the appearance agreement, that the contract that we make is this, all this information is what my office uses to make the contract. So even if they work on campus, we still have to do that. And then if for some reason, like if it's a professor, and maybe because like you're a student in their class, they don't want to provide you with all of this information, you can feel free to just like email me and CC the professor and be like, hey, Dr. Dilly is speaking at our event in May, and we just wanted to clarify what the process looks like, because then I can just work directly with Dr. Dilly and figure out all of this information, because I could see a professor not wanting to send their student their W-9. So if that ever comes up, you can always just email me, CC the person so they know who they'll need to contact, and just say something along the lines of like, hi, Dr. Dilly, I totally understand. Here's our coordinator in the Office of Student Involvement who handles our contract processes. Feel free to get with her and talk about this information. So you fill out that form. So it takes you from event creation. You answered yes to having a speaker. You go here, you fill in all this information in the top box. So then my office gets notified that there's a pending request. So for instance, Bob has a pending request right now because I haven't had time to get to it, but we're getting to it this week. My office takes this information and we create a contract for you. Once that contract is ready to go, we will email it to your speaker to get the signature from them, but we will also CC you. So in this form, some of the questions that get asked is student organization representative. So for instance, if Bob is in charge of bringing someone for Artist Anonymous, Bob would put his contact information, and I would know when I email this contract to his speaker, I'll CC Bob so he kind of stays in the know about what processes are going on and what's happening. Once we receive the contract back from your speaker with their W-9, or if we already have their W-9 and it's signed, then we submit it to business services for signature. So this is very important. The Office of Student Involvement oversees the contracts. You as a student organization will never be creating a contract. You should never be creating a contract. You will get in trouble for creating a contract. So it's always the Office of Student Involvement creating your contract. And then after we send it to business services, you will notify me that your speaker showed up. So we don't want to just say like, oh, they have an event on September 9th. So on September 10th, I'm going to notify business services to send a check. And then on September 9th at 5 p.m., your speaker was a no-show because they got stuck in the airport in Dallas and they're not going to make it. We don't want to pay them for the speaking they never did, right? So You have to notify me after your event that your speaker showed up to do whatever they were contracted to do. So they either performed, they spoke, they appeared, whatever that is. You need to notify me that that occurred, that they have arrived and they have done what they said they were going to do. And then I contact business services and tell them to send payment. Payment should take 3 to 4 weeks to get to your speaker. There was some hiccups in the end of last semester. And if you're on this call, I sincerely apologize. We had a new person in charge of contracts. We had new people in business. We had missing people in business support specialists. We had new people in business support specialists. And we had student organization renewal all going on at the same time. So I promise that this process is getting figured out and will be more seamless moving forward. And if you've emailed me about one of those hiccups in the last week, I have your email and I'm working on that for you. But yes, they should be getting their check within 3 to 4 weeks of them arriving on campus. Because if you notify me that day that they showed up, so really open the Outlook as soon as they show up and they're like in the middle of their speaking. Obviously, they're not just probably going to drop the mic in the middle of their speaking arrangement and leave. So if they're up there speaking on the stage or doing whatever you ask them to do, feel free to open your Outlook app on your email, on your phone. Just send me a quick email that says like, Dakota Miller showed up today to speak at Wise Up Wednesday like he said he would. And then probably make sure that your signature says something about what student organization you're a part of that you brought the speaker for, just in case my brain is in flux with information and I don't quite remember who brought what speaker. It will be way easier if it just says Bob Madden, Artist Anonymous president. Then I know, perfect, this is an Artist Anonymous contract, right? So I keep picking on Bob because he had a lot of contracts last year. So he knows the process. And like I said, 6 to 8 week process. So 6 to 8 weeks. If you don't give our office 6 to 8 weeks to do this, it probably is not getting done, or it will be a pain to be done. So give us 6 to 8 weeks and we should be good to go.
I'm going to pop in really quick. Also, just some context is that this process is out of our hands. So this is not like an Office of Student Involvement process. This is actually a UM system process. So tell me about it. It is annoying and frustrating. We also understand that and we're trying the best that we can. And I'm also seeing a few people are having the S&T app thing. Trust me, that's being worked on, but I will take your name. And then also, I think we're going to follow up with you. Our staff has gotten some differing information on if it's a non-paid speaker or if it's just a guest professor who's also not getting paid. So Michaela has been told, yes, this form needs to be filled out. I'm going to follow up with our legal team, who this is their process that they make, and confirm that they actually want these contracts for people who are just coming to talk at a meeting for an hour. And we have the list of attendees today, and we will personally email you all once we get that clarification. We actually tried to call them just now and they're out of the office today. So be checking your emails, because that I'm just going to confirm that that's the case, because that seems like a lot of work to me. So
right, yeah. So
if you're getting paid, absolutely it has to be this. But if they're not getting paid, really? But again, it may be out of our hands, but we will check into that for you all.
Yeah. So when Mindy says like this isn't even our process, we just have to like manage it for you all, like you tell me that you need this, and then I tell our business support specialist that you need this, and then she tells the business department that you need this, and then the business department tells the UM system that you need this, and then we have to wait for them to get back to us. So I'm like the first step of like 7 people that have to do something with your contract. So sometimes your contract is sitting in my email and it's my fault, but a lot of times it's somewhere in the line of 7 other people. So that's where the hiccups come. And obviously we've all played telephone as children. In between 7 people, there's a lot of things that get lost and confused and forgotten. So it's not the best process, but being a system school, it's what we have to deal with. So, but I'm here to help you through that process and walk you through that process. So, okay. Now, if you have a speaker, we know how to do a speaker. If you want catering for your event. So speaker was a lot of information. If you literally don't think you're ever going to bring a speaker to your event, just take a deep breath. It's okay. You don't have to worry about any of that crazy stuff. And if some random time you're like, oh shoot, we do want to bring a speaker, this recording will be on YouTube and you can watch it back. So we can all take a big deep breath. That was a lot of information. Catering is very much more simple. So to start out, if you just kind of want to look at what Sodexo can provide for you for catering, they have their website, which is umsel.catertracks.com. And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna be mad because I definitely tested that one out. But there you can kind of peruse their menus, and it allows you to just look through all the different options that Sodexo has said, like, yes, we will provide this service for you. Yes, we can do this service. If you have a different request, if you have something that's like maybe not as frequent as a request as Sodexo would get, you can always contact Sodexo and they will work with you on your event. Obviously, if it's just a meeting for your 25 members, I wouldn't contact Sodexo and ask them to make this crazy, extravagant, difficult meal that you have to provide a recipe for and all of that. We kind of reserve those for our more cultural based event, our diversity and heritage month kickoff events, things like that, because Sodexo is Sodexo and they are contracted to do the services they do for us. And they kindly do a lot more for us most times than they need to. So if we can just keep it to kind of what their normal thing is, which is what's listed on their Cater Tracks menu. Cater Tracks also has costs next to all of those items in there. So that is what will help you with your budget request. So once you look through all that they have, kind of figure out what you want, then you would submit a budget request. Again, we're going to go through the budget request process. That's just number 6 on our list, not number 5. So you would submit a budget request with a screenshot of the items on Cater Tracks, or if you did choose to email Sherry, which that's the next little blurb on this slide, you would put a screenshot of your email. So I know on the budget request system, it asks you to upload a document and you can't upload a picture. In the past on MyEngage, you could just upload pictures. If you're doing an email chain, don't just copy and paste the email into a Word document and upload it. Screenshot your email and put the screenshot into a Word doc to upload. Just because any Joe Schmo on the street could type into a Word. Well, actually not any Joe Schmo on the street because Microsoft Word is expensive. But any random college student could open their Microsoft Word account and type into a Word document, "Dear Mindy, the cost of your blah, 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 blah is blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Sherry," and then put Sherry Hicks Sodexo. Like, you could really do that if you wanted to, which we shouldn't do that, right? So you're going to want to screenshot your email and put it into the Word document before you upload it, just so SABC knows, like, okay, they really did talk to Sherry. They didn't just kind of make up this email from back in the day. They knew what Sherry would say, so they just copy pasted this into a Word document. No, I need you to screenshot it for me so I can see from Sherry Hicks on this day at this time to Mindy Dilly, all the information that's provided. And then once you have gotten your funds allocated, you will want to contact Sherry at her email, which is listed here, sherryhicks@sodexo.com. If you've already been emailing her about what you kind of want and what you're looking for, how many people you're going to bring, you could just email her and be like, okay, perfect. We did get allocated the full amount, so we're good to move forward with our $356.30 order. Or you can email her and be like, hey, we submitted an order for $350. We were only allocated $225. What changes do we need to make to the order to make it worth or only $225? And Sherry will work with you to cut down the costs and cut out items that are maybe excessive, or maybe we ordered too much food in the first place, things like that. And then you can let her know, like, okay, we're good to go. This is the time and date of my location and location of my event. And then Sodexo handles, with our event services folks, the delivering of food. So they'll be like, okay, their reservation starts at this time. So that means that we're going to deliver the food at this time, or the room will be set up by this time. So we're going to deliver that by this time. All right. So once you confirm with Sherry that you're good to go for your order, you're going to want to submit a payment request on Triton Connect, which we'll go through that process in a minute. When you submit that payment request, that lets me know that I should be on the lookout for your order from Sodexo. So what happens is you finalize your order and Sodexo emails me your order receipt and confirmation so that I can pay for it. Sherry may email you back saying like, okay, cool, what's the MO code? And you're just going to want to say, Michaela from the Office of Student Involvement will give you that MO code. Thank you for getting blank organization our order. Just make sure to confirm your organization name in that, because sometimes your signature will say that you work in the Office of Student Involvement. And so Sherry will just assume by your email signature, because you never said in your email what organization you're from, she'll just assume you're doing it for the Office of Student Involvement, because that's the only identifying thing in your email. And then I'll get a Sodexo request that's like Office of Student Involvement order. And I'm like, huh? And then I have to like look through if I've been involved in any email chain or anything like that to see who the person is, what group they might be a part of. So just always make sure when you're talking to Sherry that you say what organization you're getting the order for, so they can have it right in their system. So then when they email me, I know, okay, Dakota submitted a payment request for this organization. I have an order from Sodexo for this organization for the same amount. Then I send both of those things. I forward Sherry's email and I attach a screenshot of your payment request, and I send it to our boss's boss, Dorian, the top head honcho, and I get approval to make sure that I can pay for your order, because we have to get every single payment approved. So even though SABC said, yeah, you can spend money, Michaela has to take it to Dorian, and Dorian has to say, yeah, Michaela, you can spend money. So every single thing that you guys submit to me, there's probably 3 more steps I have to do in order to get it approved. So if you're ever like, dang, this is taking a minute, yeah, I'm waiting on someone to respond. So, but thankfully Dorian's pretty quick. So I get that approval, and then I provide the Mo code to Sherry. So I know last year I didn't really mention Mo codes because you guys don't have access to your Mo code, and you shouldn't be using your Mo code, even if you've seen it in an email or anything. But I do know it got confusing, because then our event services people or Sodexo or somebody would be like, what's your Mo code? And you guys are like, what's my Mo code? I don't even know what that is. A Mo code is basically your student group's account number with the university. It's how we identify what group is spending money. So it's really just an account number, but I have to provide that for you all. So yes, was there questions regarding catering? It's pretty easy, to be honest.
We do not, but actually, while you were chatting, one of our teammates, just Commode, was able to contact a different representative in the office that we needed to talk to about the contracts, and we did get some clarification already. So Michaela, this is for you. So you're probably doing a lot of work you didn't need to. A contract is not needed if it's someone who is not being paid and is only coming on campus as a speaker. However, if they're bringing like large equipment or something that would be like risky or maybe cause some liability issues, then we should talk. But a contract is not needed if someone is not being paid.
Amazing.
Right. That's going to save you a ton of work, Michaela. Holy smokes. That's why I was like, business services does not want to do these contracts. Like, they're already bogged down as it is.
Right.
And then Bob is asking, is there a phone number that they need to use for Sodexo? I can look it up.
I think they do have a phone number you can contact. But I do also know Sherry's really good about checking the email. Like, she's like on it. She's very quick. And if she's not, it's probably because they have like an all hands on deck event that they're doing that they need everyone. So for instance, on Saturday during the welcome picnic, if you email Sodexo, they're not going to respond because all 20 of their staff members will be outside sweating their booties off with all of us, providing amazing food for students and all of us to eat. One, so my voice can have a break, and 2, because I've been giving you all a lot of information, we're going to take a little 7-minute break. So feel free to turn your cameras off. Feel free to go to the bathroom, get a beverage of your choice, whatever you want to eat, a snack, all of that. We're going to take a little break. If you have questions, I can answer them in the chat while we're on our break. But yeah.
Kayla, there are a few questions about Sodexo, but maybe we should answer those when everyone comes back, because I think they're for the good of the order. Good work, everyone. Good questions.
All right. Coming back. I don't see anyone's cameras on, so I'll wait a minute because I'm sure you guys are all waiting for me. You're like, I'm just gonna wait till Michaela gets here. I would do the same thing, so. All right. As people are coming back, I know that there was a few questions in the chat. So one of them was about in regards to like when in the process you should submit a budget request, when you should finalize with Sherry, all of that. So just as a reminder, if you want to take a picture of this slide, feel free to. You can either look at catertracks.com to like look at their menu, or you can email Sherry directly if like you don't find what you want on there. And you can ask her like questions and she'll give you an estimate of how much it will cost. Once you have that estimate, or you've looked at Cater Tracks and kind of compiled a list of what you want, you'll submit your budget request with either screenshots of this website or screenshots of your email chain with Sherry. And then once the budget request, once you get allocated money from that budget request, that's when you'll email Sherry to finalize with her kind of that we got money, we're ready to go. Or we got partial funding, this is how much money we have left, what can we do with that amount of money? And then once you finalize that order, then that's when you do the payment request. But so you'll do the budget request once you figure out how much the food you want costs. Once you're allocated the money, then you'll confirm with Sherry. Nathan asked, are we contractually obligated to order from Sodexo for any or all food events as indicated in prior years? We are contracted to use Sodexo solely. They have a clause in their contract currently. It's on a year-by-year basis, so this may change for next year. If it's less, if your food costs less than $500, so say you just want some chips at your event, you have to fill out a food waiver form, which is on the event services website. If someone could be so kind to send the event services website link in the chat for everyone. You would fill that out, and once you get approval from that, you can go ahead and you can either someone in your organization can like go buy chips at the store and be reimbursed if you have SABC funding, or if you don't have SABC funding, someone can just go, whoever's willing to spend money can go buy the chips or the cookies or the drinks or whatever. But if you want to, for instance, I know last year we had a group, they just ordered like those big boxes of chips off of Amazon, so they submitted a budget request, they filled out the food waiver form, they got approved. I ordered them on Amazon, they came in, they had them at their event. So less than $500, or if you're hosting a like event that the food is just not what Sodexo can make, so like cultural or ethnic food that Sodexo cannot make for you very easily, there's an option on the food waiver form to fill that out and get an exemption from that contract through Sodexo. So I know, for instance, Indian Student Association used that last year to bring food for one of their celebration events. So just a reminder, if you're having food on campus for your event, you need to be using Sodexo unless you filled out that food waiver form to get approval to not use Sodexo. On the Cater Track website, can we use flavors and elements or just one of the two? You can use either of those. I honestly don't even know what the difference between those two menu options are. Feel free to look at all of them. All of those are things that Sodexo can do. So yeah, there's no really difference there. Was there any other questions that came in the last second?
Just really quick, I'm responding now, but this might be good for everyone to know. You all should never sign a contract or an agreement yourself. I know that might kind of sound so like, whatever, I'll just sign it. Like that is a lot of personal liability that you add. And therefore the university actually could be like, well, we didn't sign it. Like, so then you are on the line for whatever's in that contract. So this question was like about a movie licensing. That's also a good tip. You cannot show movies publicly without getting the licensing. And I think that's something that student orgs don't know. Back in my day, even, don't call the police or anything, but we used to show like movies to the whole group. Well, that's illegal. And our office does license those. I would contact Michaela or myself or student involvement if you're wanting to do a movie license, because we kind of have the hookup on that. just be prepared that they are stupid expensive. You're like, what? I could just log into Netflix.
It's like $800 for an Avengers movie, and you're like, I have Disney Plus, and you can't use Disney Plus.
Yeah. So if you're going to movie license, chat with one of us in student involvement and we will work on that. But you all should never be signing anything yourself. Always send it to Michaela or student involvement and we will walk through those processes because we don't want that to ever fall back on you.
I also saw a question, not sure if it got answered. Someone asked, is the payment for a guest speaker a fixed rate or the organization officer settle this with the speaker? So that will be up to you as an organization officer to work out with your speaker. I would say, actually, I'm not even gonna put a price point because it just kind of depends on their services and who they are, how like far they are into the business, how experienced they are in the business, things like that. But you can always, I mean, try and say like, hey, like we're a small organization coming out of the pandemic. We really don't have that many members, but we really think the impact of your speech would be really helpful for us moving forward or things like that. You can always, I would say always advocate for yourselves because while we do have SABC funding, that isn't an unlimited pot of money. So we can't just be bringing like all these expensive speakers to campus. And there's probably there might even be like a grad student on campus that's doing research on something you want to talk about that would be more than willing to like get experience talking about what they're interested in. There's many colleges in the area. There's probably a professor or a grad student at another school that would be very interested in speaking for you. For instance, in the spring semester, I'm pretty sure maybe in the fall, we had a grad student from Ohio State come and present for Wise Up Wednesday. And he was more than happy to get that experience because as a grad student, that's something you can put on your resume that you were contracted to speak at another university. And that's kind of a big deal. So always, obviously there's those people we like really want to come and they're so impactful and we love them. We saw them speak on TED Talk or we saw them speak at another university. But always think through the resources we have on campus here because we also just kind of want to support the home team and St. Louis people. So yeah, always think through those options. Okay. I think I have an answer?
Michaela, it's looking like, is there a limit to a number of events student orgs are allowed to have per year/semester? And that answer is no, correct?
Correct.
Just know, Victoria, that the budgeting, if you're asking SABC for funds, they may not have the funds, it may not fall into one of those categories, but you can have as many events as you want. Please do. Let me see.
For the off-campus events question, I need to clarify because since the pandemic, it's been kind of, well, we haven't been able to fund off-campus events in the past 2 years because of the pandemic. I need to verify with our student affairs division to make sure. I'm assuming there's not a limit on that this year now that we've kind of like, as far as policy is concerned, we kind of have moved past that pandemic stage that we were in. I need to verify, but I'm going to guess that there's not you can have off-campus events. Just know that SABC is for the purpose of engaging UMSL students. So unless you're doing like a pretty big marketing for that event and like kind of helping organize how people are going to show up to your event that's off campus, we don't normally like to fund events that are off campus just because that strongly limits who's there because it's only people that are invited or know about it. If that makes any sense.
If you're hosting like a barbecue and you're planning on like cooking the food yourself, a lot of those will also not be approved. And I also don't just personally recommend that just because there's so many like food safety issues. And so I'm not sure if that's what that question was about, but just in case someone was like, well, I'll just flip burgers in the backyard and call that an event. Heaven forbid someone gets something and then that's trouble. So I know you all might be like, y'all are awfully uptight about stuff. I've been in student activities for like 15 years. This stuff happens. So we're just trying to look out for you all. We want to make sure that things are safe and what's best for you. So
you do not want to be on the other side of a lawsuit. I promise you that.
Yes, no. And there's no limit event or there's no limited amount of speakers you can bring. It really just depends on what your budget allows and what your student organization can handle. So, yes. And I got a DM that I think is good for the group of the order. Someone asked, and this might be silly, but they're handing out candy at like an involvement at the involvement jamboree. That does not need a food waiver. Like that's just, you're handing out candy. Now, going back to my just comment, you don't want to do homemade baked goods. Keep those out of here because you never know what people are allergic to. You never know what might be cross-contaminated. I would always stick to prepackaged things you purchase. So good question for everybody.
Yes. Jayla, also with the limited amount of speakers, I know while there's not a limit, I do know, for instance, Associated Black Legions, you guys do some panel conversations. For the group, if you're planning on doing a panel conversation, it's probably best to ask people if they'll volunteer to sit on the panel, just because you don't want to get in the business of like having 5 contracts for your event for each person on the panel. Now, obviously, if you're bringing like an esteemed professor from Stanford University, and then the rest of them are like random St. Louis people, yeah, we can maybe work out paying the professor from Stanford, but I would always ask if people will volunteer. And then, because for instance, like I know last year, ABC for their Black Love panel, they just bought little gift bags of random gifts for their speakers. So the people volunteered, but because they had like 5 couples, which now is 10 people, they were able to pay for the speaker by buying like cheap gift bag for the speaker to kind of thank them for their work. So, all right, all this talk about paying and budget requests and who's getting paid where. Now it's time for budget requests. So I know I kind of wanted to give a break before we talk about budget requests because I know there's a lot of stress that goes behind these, which it doesn't have to be a stressful process, I promise. Especially now that you all like know all the information that needs to, or that you need leading up to the budget request. It doesn't need to be stressful. It's really in on here. It's honestly on Try and Connect. It's easier than it was on MyEngage, and you need to know less. You have to put in less information, I would say. It's kind of all the same information, but MyEngage was very repetitive, I would say. Okay. On your, again, this is the same screenshot. On your dashboard of your student organization, there should be an accounting book button. When you go to the accounting book, you'll see these budgets that are listed. So on August 22nd, which is when the budget request for the time period after September, I think it was 19th or 20th, when the early fall budget requests, like when you had a request for was over. August 22nd will be when you guys can start submitting requests for September 20th or after. This fall 2022 budget request button will pop up on your thing. It's probably not there right now because I went and opened it for this screenshot so you all would know what it will look like, but it's not there right now, just so you know. The day the school starts, classes begin, you will be able to open the accounting book and you'll see fall 2022 budget requests. When you click on that, it will take you to this page that says budget, your organization, and then at the top, always make sure this dropdown says which request you're trying to submit under. And again, if you clicked this budget button instead of the accounting book, because it was just the one that was first, it takes you straight to this page and you can navigate between these budgets by using the dropdown. Then it will list the timeline. So for those of you that submitted an early fall budget request, there was dates underneath all of these. Since the fall budget will be open from August 22nd until November 16th, there's not a date on these other steps. So the budget review and approval and the payments, because SABC will be meeting either every week or bi-weekly to approve budgets. And then your payment requests can be submitted anytime after you're allocated the money. According to the SABC rules, you have to submit the reimbursement request within 2 weeks following your event. So this says that there's no timeline on payment requests. But obviously, if you need me to order something or pay Sodexo, that has to be done before your event. But if you're getting reimbursed, the reimbursement payment request needs to be submitted within 2 weeks from your event time, which is in the SABC rules, which if they're not already, will be linked on the SABC page on the student involvement website. The link should be there. There's at least a button. I'm not sure if it links to the rules if I need to update it, but it will be there when we get into the fall semester. So you'll see this timeline. It says currently, like, you can submit a budget, but really, even though this is highlighted, all 3 of these things are happening at once due to the nature of, you can submit it whenever SABC is reviewing them every week or bi-weekly, and then after your allocated money, you can submit a payment request anytime. So in order to submit a budget request, if you haven't already done this process, there should be this gray button that says create budget request. If there's not, and you're clicked underneath fall 2022 budget requests, send me an email. Don't just try and submit it under whatever option you think will work. Don't do that, because then it gets lost in the system. We all just found that out the hard way. Make sure that you're clicking this gray create budget request button. Right now in your Try and Connect portal, there's not going to be a create budget request button because there's no open budgets. Like a budget request process is not currently open. So this button is not there right now, but on August 22nd, the first day of classes, when you go in under fall 2022 budget requests, you'll see a create budget request button. When you click that, well, actually, before I say when you click that, did I lose anyone in these three little screens that we're on? We're good. Okay. When you click create budget request, it pops open the create/edit a budget request. You see this step 1 of 2? I told you it's so easy. There's literally 2 screens you have to fill out. It's super easy. So under budget request type, you'll select either programming, general operations, or team development. Team development requests are going to be, we're having a leadership retreat and we need to pay for the venue we're having it at. We are doing a high ropes course that is benefiting our members because we need our members to have a bond that's created in a high ropes course. So we're going to submit a team development request. Because remember, if you're doing an event that's just for your members, that can't be paid for in an SABC programming request, because a programming request is for an event that's open to all UMSL students or a large majority of the population. So like if it's for all UMSL men or all UMSL women, if it's like distinguished in that way, I use that example from fraternity and sorority life, it still would be open because that's like almost half the UMSL population or more, depending on which subset we're talking about. If it's a large group of people, open to anyone, and it's free of charge. So if your event costs money, SABC cannot cover the cost of that event underneath programming. So programming, an event open to everyone or most of the UMSL population, free of charge. You can submit it under programming. Team development is how if you're planning an event for just your exec officers or just your members, that's going to be a team development request. I will let you know those get looked at line by line of what's going on at them, because SABC is not going to cover your team going out to dinner at the end of the day unless the dinner is a part of your team development. So for instance, at one time, the Office of Student Involvement was going to go to a cooking class together as kind of like a little bonding thing outside of work, get to know each other. But in that cooking class, we obviously be paying for food because you have to pay for the food you make and then you eat it at the end. So it would look like, to the business department, it would look like a meal. But on the back end, we know, okay, that's a team development activity. It's a part of the developmental activity going on. It's not just, hey, we all did a training together all day, we're going to go to dinner. Woo, we're done. That does not count as a team development cost. So team development, if you're going to plan a team retreat or something like that and you have questions, because it is kind of very specific and in the weeds when it comes to SABC funding, let me know. We can set up a meeting and talk through it, talk through what can and cannot be covered. And then the last type of budget request is the general operations request. So general operations request is just going to be like, okay, we need binders, we need pens that we're going to hand out at tabling next week, because maybe that's not a whole program. We're not planning a whole program. We're just tabling in honor of our philanthropies event or month. So we're going to hand out pens or we're going to hand out something. That'll be a general operations request. So I know sometimes we get confused between programming and general operations. General operations also includes like member supplies. So like a t-shirt, a hat, a water bottle, anything you're going to buy for specific members. All of those are capped at $8 per item, no matter what it is. That doesn't just apply to t-shirts. It also applies to stoles, graduation cords, all of those things. So just keep that in mind. If it's a member item, it's $8 limit. It's not just a t-shirt limit. Okay, so those are different types of budgets you can submit, budget requests. The title will just be whatever the budget request is for. So if you're doing a programming request for your welcome back event, you'll put student organization name, welcome back event, or whatever it's called. And then the priority is not required because you don't need to put it. And then documents, this is where you will upload your Word doc. Like I said earlier, it requires a Word document to be uploaded. So 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be screenshotting something and putting it into a Word document to upload it. If you're screenshotting Amazon, feel free to also include the link in the Word document so then I can just click into the link. Then you're going to put the event location, the event start date, the event end date for whatever this is happening. And then you don't have to put expected number of attendees, but you can if you would like. Then you'll click next. This is where you put in the budget information. So you're going to select an item type. There's a list of items you can choose from. Select the one that most accurately describes what you're requesting. You're going to put in how much you're requesting if your group is financing any of it. So maybe we're bringing a speaker to campus that costs $500, but we got the college that we're kind of connected to pay $200. You would want to put amount requested 300, amount financed by group 200. That way we know when you send the emails with the speaker in that, oh, okay, this says $500, but they only need $300 because someone else is paying the 200. And then in the notes section is where you're going to add your description. So say it was Dr. Dilly from Stanford University is coming to speak. We're going to put in the notes, Dr. Dilly contract in the notes, because then that tells Michaela on the back end, this is for Dr. Dilly's contract. And then I know I'm going to get a contract connected to that, right? So always put something in the notes section. That's where the description goes, because this is an item type. It doesn't really describe to me what you need, what you're getting, where we're going. There's this add item button. If you have multiple items on your thing, always just click add item and it will add more and more and more. Then you click save. When you save it, it should pop up underneath that screen. So if we go back underneath here, underneath this, it should say right here, it says Panhellenic Association. Under that, it will show you this box that shows all of your requests. So you'll see the title was Welcome Week Donuts, programming request. Here's some comments about what we're doing. Here's the event details. And then food catering, $40. We're requesting $40, all of that. So then once SABC meets and allocates and approves money, the approved and allocated funds will show up here. So you'll see in this example, they were allocated 100%. Some of you may be able to go in and see that you were only allocated a percentage of the requested amount. If you were only allocated a percentage, when you click this notes button, there should be like a note from me saying like allocated at 91% or 92 or whatever the number is, 81%, whatever. But it's still, that note will give you more information about like what's going on with your request. Excuse me. And then this green dot just means that it was allocated. If it was partially allocated, I think this dot may be yellow. It really just means like approved, not approved, semi-approved. And then when you go to make a payment request, you will click this payment request button. For those of you that had early fall budget requests, I apologize, as I realized this past week that our payment request is kind of confusing. It should do the job for now, but it will be updated when we get into our actual fall budget system. So if you have been requesting payment and orders and stuff, and you're like, Michaela, why is it asking me 50 questions? It's because it's not set up correctly, but that will be getting fixed. I just don't want to fix it in the middle and then have a problem like we did with the budgets where like half of the submissions disappear, because that would be very bad. So we're going to just roll with the punches now for the next week and a half, and then we will I'm going to update it so that it makes more sense. So that payment request thing will look a little bit different, but just like this system, it walks you through every question you need to answer. You'll answer the required questions, and then you will click next and submit, and you will be good to go. I only have one more slide, which is art requests. So do we have questions about budgets?
Yes, we have a few. And they're all good questions. So the first question is, what if you submit a request for funding for some Amazon items or some other items, and then between it getting requested and actually being purchased, the prices have changed? How do we handle that?
Yes. So as a rule of thumb, when you're looking at Amazon, obviously, if it's on sale, it normally tells you like 26% off, but it shows you the original price with the line through it. Always put the original price, because Amazon changes prices like every day. So always put like the price that's more on there just to be safe. And then as long as it's in with like a few dollars and cents, we will just order it even if it's like a few dollars, if it's like, I would say less than $5 more than what you put on your request, you will be okay. But always try and, as a rule of thumb, put the most expensive price that's listed on the Amazon.
Another question or another comment is that, do you know we are a tax exempt entity, so we are not allowed to reimburse state any type of tax. So if you're doing a reimbursement, if you pay taxes, you will get reimbursed for everything minus the tax. That was a good comment in the chat.
I also cannot give you all our tax exempt information. So some, like for instance, t-shirt companies will be like, oh, cool, you're a university group, we won't put tax on there. Some places won't do that. Like if you go to Schnucks to buy chips, obviously you're going to be paying tax, because I can't give you our tax exempt information, because we can only use it if it's coming out of a university account. So that's why if you're getting reimbursed, a lot of times you're going to have to eat the tax, which is very unfortunate, but
same for us too, y'all.
right.
Trust me, when I buy the team lunch, I'm like, well, I went $4. Quickly, are you able to submit a reimbursement before the actual event?
So if you've bought it, so if you're going to buy something and be reimbursed, yes. So for instance, Catholic Newman Center is a great example of this. They're actually like pros at budget requests and reimbursement requests. So if you need help, hit up the Catholic Newman Center. They can probably answer your questions, honestly. But you can submit it ahead of time. If you're buying supplies that you've already been approved for, but you bought it before the date of your event, yeah, you can go ahead and submit that reimbursement whenever you have time. If you bought food for an event that happened, but you didn't already get a budget request approved, you will not be able to be reimbursed for that. So you can't be like, oh crap, we forgot to buy chips for the involvement jamboree on August 31st and just go to the store and buy chips, and then like the next week add a budget request for chips for involvement jamboree. That doesn't work. You can't be reimbursed if you weren't already allocated money for the reimbursement.
We're getting lots of questions, Michaela, so just know
Really
we're doing
quick.
so well on time. That's okay. This is great.
Yeah.
Next question would be, if we have a current, what happened? Some organizations who did the early budget requests have pending requests. What does that mean? Are those denied? Could they be approved?
If you have a pending request and I haven't emailed you about them, that means I cannot see it. If it's a pending budget request, if you haven't heard from me, like I haven't sent you a specific email that said, hey, Mindy, this, you submitted this, I'm confused about this, SABC wanted more information about this, and it's not approved, allocated, or denied, then that means that I haven't seen it. I can't see it probably.
Well, and just so those of you that might be confused, there was a hiccup when the system started. Michaela realized it, worked with the company, and I believe it's been changed, but these may have been prior to that. So
yes,
Bob, contact Michaela. Going down this thing, if you are using non-university funds, we have no say in that. So you can do whatever you'd like, and don't even tell us, please. Because the minute you tell us or you ask us, then we're legally obligated to tell you what you can and cannot do. So there was a question about non-SABC funding. If it's not outside funds, like say your organization has fundraising funds, which not many do, so plug your ears if you don't know anything about this. Any money that's in the university system still has to follow our processes. Which is kind of annoying. So that's why it's like kind of frustrating sometimes. I'm like, well, that's our fundraising money. Agreed. But that still has to go through our processes. What if a student organization submits a budget request for Amazon? Michaela, do you order those, or would I order those on my own?
Yes, so you will submit a budget request. SABC will allocate money. Once the allocation has been approved, like you've been given money in there, so like in this approved column, you have money, you can click this request payment button, and that is requesting that Michaela orders your stuff from Amazon for you. How that process works, I order it on Amazon, it gets shipped to the office. Our front desk will notify you that you have a package, and then it will be labeled and locked in our package cabinet, and then you'll just come to the front desk and grab it from them.
So that's really helpful, because then there's no funds out of your pocket that needs to be fronted. So please do that. Let me see here. If we already have an approved budget for food catering, will submitting a payment request go directly to Sodexo, or do we need to send an email to Sherry?
You need to email Sherry to verify your order.
Perfect. Can you quickly re-explain the difference between a budget and a payment request?
Yes, so a budget is asking for SABC to give you money. A payment request is asking SABC to do something with that money. So whether that's order items from Amazon, Staples, or buy something from the bookstore, whether that's pay Sodexo, whether that's pay your contract person, the payment request tells Michaela that she needs to do something with the money you were allocated.
Perfect. Jacob, their question was, does that apply to food as well? And I think that's my comment about, like, if it's your own money, you do whatever you want. Thank you for clarifying. The Sodexo contract is a university contract. So if you're hosting an event on campus, even if you're using your own funds, it is an all-inclusive contract and it must be Sodexo or through that food exemption. However, Jacob, if you were having an event off campus that was privately funded, don't tell me what you're doing. You do you. Let's see. If someone thought that you could submit early fall budget requests until August 15th, is that true?
No, that ended. I don't remember the specific date, but it ended to request money.
That okay, Jacob, I saw your clarification. I think that's what I talked about. This is a good question. Does OSI have Amazon Prime to make sure orders get here on time? Welcome to the UM system.
So we have an Amazon business account, which means we do have Prime shipping, but it also means when I create your order, it then has to be approved by Mindy's supervisor, and it also has to be approved by the business department. And then the business department approves it, and then it tells Amazon to order it. So 2-day shipping might turn into 5, 6, 7-day shipping. So don't count on, I submitted a payment request on Monday and my stuff will be here on Friday. I would give it at least a week, if not 2 weeks.
If we're being honest, there's been a few things we've needed for the office that I've just ordered on my own account because I waited too long and just had to get reimbursed. But again, I had to eat the tax. So
and
if you haven't gotten,
if it's like Halloween time and you're gonna order candy on Amazon, there's no telling when it's coming. Like if it's a holiday time and you're ordering something that like goes with the time of year, it could take forever because it could be on back order. And even if it says on the website there's 2 available, by the time I order it, our supervisor approves it, the business department approves it, those 2 could be gone. So yes, as much time as possible is best, but
okay, still lots more questions about funding.
Okay,
and I think
really
it's kind of important.
Okay, really quick, I just want to do art requests. So if someone knows funding, but they need an art request question, they can just leave.
Okay.
So the last step is to submit an art request. We've gotten funding, we know what's happening, we've got our space reserved, we have everything figured out for an event, we're ready to go. Submit an art request. This is how you get your poster in the rotunda, so everyone knows knows your event is coming. This is how you get a social media image to put on your social media and an image to put in your event on Triton Connect. You go to studentinvolvement.umsl.edu. That's the right website. I know that for a fact. I go there almost every day. You'll scroll to the very bottom of our homepage on student involvement, and there's a button that says media production. You click on that, it will take you to the media production department website, and there's buttons to submit an art request. When you submit an art request, it literally walks you through exactly what information you need. I will let you know the program times out after 15 minutes. So don't go in there and be like, I need to do an art request tomorrow. I'm going to open it on my tab to remember to do it. Anything you put in there will no longer be there. So when you go to make an art request, this is why I put it at the last step. You need to know all the information that's going into your art request. And as a recognized student organization on UMSL's campus, this stuff is free of charge to you. So the rotunda banners, the digital signage, the event picture for Triton Connect, all that stuff is free of charge. So why not put a poster in the rotunda to promote your event that you're having? Because we want people to come. For instance, Philosophers Forum, last year they had an event that had Kanye West. It was involving Kanye West, can't remember the name, but it was a really cool event. But they had Kanye West on the poster. It was in the rotunda. I talked to so many people that were like, oh my gosh, what is this Kanye West poster? I want to go see what this event is about. All because they're going down the escalator to get a bagel at Einstein's, or going up the escalator to come to Office of Student Involvement, and they saw the poster. So There's a really easy way for you all to get promotion for your events. And I know that last year we did not utilize this system enough. So make sure you're submitting art requests. Okay, we can go back to payment.
I have a question about
If-
art requests though, and this
Oh,
is
yeah.
a good one. So Elizabeth has mentioned that they submitted art requests like a month ago and have not heard back. Do you have a direct phone number? This is a great question. And we should let you know, while this is on our website, the media production department is actually not overseen by myself or our team. It is overseen by the Division of Student